Hey, first grade art friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. I just wanted to show you kind of where we're going with our polar bear project this week. Last week we drew our polar bear and we outlined it with oil pastels and gave it some smudgy lines so that our bear looked like it was more realistic. This week we are going to make a baby bear for the either the mom or the dad polar bear that you made, and we're gonna start to think about the background for our polar bears. Okay, so this week in your packet that went home to you, you should have gotten a turquoise piece of paper, and then you should have 2 white pieces of paper, a blue piece, and a violet piece. All right, for right now all we're going to need is this white piece. So if you want to go ahead and grab that, and you're going to need a pencil and an oil pastel, and then we'll get started. All right guys, so we're going to take this white strip of paper, we're going to place it vertically on our work surface, and what we're going to do is we're just going to bring down the top 2 corners. And oops, Mrs. Herbay has a little oil pastel from my thing on there. And then we're going to match up the top 2 corners with the bottom corners. All right, and then we're going to fold the paper in half. I'm going to flip my paper over since I got the other side a little bit messy. And then we're just going to open it back up, but we have this fold line that tells us sort of where the top of our piece of paper is. Okay? Now, the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to take your little finger and you're going to put it on the edge of your piece of paper. And you're going to make sure you put it on the edge and you're going to put a mark. Mrs. Herbay's finger is a little bit bigger than yours, so I'm going to maybe only put half my finger. Okay, this is about where your line should be. And then you're going to do the same thing. We're going to take your pointer finger and put it over and put it on the this edge of your piece of paper. Again, I'm going to only maybe do half of my finger because Mrs. Herbay has bigger fingers than you guys. So you should have 2 little marks right here. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put 2 fingers together, okay? And again, Mrs. Herbay's are a little bit bigger, but so I'm going to kind of maybe estimate. But you're going to put those fingers next to this line that you drew right here, like this, okay? And then you'll put your mark. And then you're going to do the same thing where you're going to take these 2 fingers, and your pointer finger is going to go next to that line, and then you're going to put a mark. Whoops. Mrs. Herbay put too big of a mark. Okay. All right, so you should have 2 fairly large spaces, a space in between, and then these 2 little small spaces. These lines are going to tell us where and how we're going to put the curve for the baby bear's paws, okay? If they're really, really thin, then the baby bear's going to have really thin legs. So you want to make sure they're a little bit wide, about this wide, so that the baby doesn't have really skinny legs. So what we're going to do is, like we did last week, we're going to take our pencil on the edge of our lines and we're just going to make a curve. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to put our pencil on the edge of this line, curve up and over. Okay, if you need to adjust it a little bit, you can. And Mrs. Herbay's just going to make this one maybe just a tad bit wider. Okay, so there we have our baby bear's paws. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put a line in the middle, and then remember last week we're going to kind of draw a little bit of a curved line just like the edge of the paw, so it's just a little bit curved like that on one side, and then we're going to draw another line that's a little bit curved on that side like that. Okay, then if you can do that, we're just going to do it on the same thing on the other side. So we're going to go line in the middle, little bit of curve on the side, little bit of curve on the side. And I'm gonna stop and we'll wait until you guys do that, and then we'll do the next step. So for the next step, we're going to put the little bit of a curve line that is in between the baby bear's paws. And so what you can do is you're gonna find the middle in between the two paws, which on my piece of paper, it's right here. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of slide it up to the count of 1. So we're gonna go 1, and my line is gonna be somewhere kind of right around in here, okay? So it's about as wide as one of these paws, okay? And then what you're gonna do is you're going to start on the edge of this paw, curve up to that line, or that mark, and then curve around and down to the side of this paw, okay? Then what we're going to do is we are going to figure out where we need to draw the baby bear's head, okay? So we have this fold up here, so let's find the middle of our piece of paper up at the top where the fold is. So go ahead, put your pencil up where you think the middle is. To give you an idea, if Mrs. Herbay put her pencil over here, you can see that's not the middle. I need to move it over a little bit. Once we find the middle, again, we're gonna slide down to maybe the count of 1. So we're just gonna go 1 and just slide down a little bit and put a mark right there, okay? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pencil and we're gonna find the middle line of the paw, and then we're just gonna slide up until we're kind of a little bit down from that mark here. Gonna find the middle of this paw, slide up, put a mark here, okay? And you can see that we're gonna start to draw the lines for the baby bear's face, okay? Then the last line that we're gonna do is we're gonna start at this one and we're gonna come down until maybe like right here. So we kind of have these evenly spaced marks here. And what's going to happen is we are going to do like we did last week with the grown-up polar bear. We are going to start on one side, curve up to the line, curve around and down to that line. And then we're going to curve down and around to this line and up and around to that line. Okay? So I'm going to let you do that, and then we'll talk about the final details. All right, guys, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the face details to the polar bear. So the first thing we're going to add is this little snout right in here, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're just going to come up just a teeny little bit and put a mark, okay? And then what you can do is I'm going to draw a diagonal, kind of like a curved diagonal like that, and then a curved diagonal like that. So almost like making sort of a U, but not quite as round, sort of or a V that's a little rounded. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to round the top of that. So we have this rounded little shape there. And then down here, we're going to draw our triangle and kind of round the edges of that too for the nose. And then we're going to find the top of the bear's snout and go over a little bit and draw one eye, and then slide across and draw the other eye. Okay? Then last week, if you remember, we started at the eye to draw the ear, and we did a diagonal line up here, and then we just made a little curve, and then another one inside. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to go up diagonally, make a little curve, make a little curve inside. I'm going to stop and give you guys a chance to do that, and then we'll do the final line. All right, guys, so the final line is going to be 2 lines that are on the side of the bear's legs and kind of coming up to the bear's neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here on the edge, okay? And what we're going to do is we're just going to come out a little bit and then come down All right, then we're gonna start up here. We're gonna come out a little bit and then come back down. And there is my baby polar bear. So now what we're going to do is we are going to grab our oil pastel and we are going to outline again just like we did last week. So what you want to do is, if you remember, when we outlined a circle, we would do a little bit and then we would turn our paper. So I want you guys to try that again. So Mrs. Herbay is going to outline a little bit and then I'm going to turn my paper. And then I'm outlining a little bit and I'm turning my paper. Outlining a little bit, turning my paper, outlining and turning, and back to the beginning. Okay? Then what we can do is we can outline the snout. So I'm going to go up and around, up and around. I'm going to fill in this little nose here and the eyes. I'm going to trace over the ear and the other ear. Then we can do the curves for the bear's paws. So there's one paw. There is the other paw. Then I'm going to do the curve in the middle. And then I'm going to do the curves on the side. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute to do that, and then we're going to do our smudgy smudge. Okay, so now for our little smudgy smudge, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start here like we did last week, where we're going to kind of swing back and forth with our little pointer finger, and we're going to make a smile there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our pointer finger and we're going to kind of push up to the top of the paw, from the top of the paw line. So push up, and I'm going to push down a little bit too. And then on the side of the bear's body, I'm going to slide down and in, down and in. And then I'm going to go to the other side, same thing. Down and in, down and in. Okay. Then we're going to start on the edge of the bear's face and kind of curve around a little bit. We're going to curve a little bit around the edge of the bear's snout and a little bit under the head. We're going to tickle inside the ear. And we are all done giving our bear its smudges. Okay, so I'm going to stop, let you guys do that, and then we'll talk about the next steps. All right guys, so once you're done smudging, you're going to notice your hands probably have black oil pastel on them. So what I want you to do is go wash your hands, okay? And then after you wash your hands, we are going to grab a pair of scissors and we will start the next step. All right guys, I washed my hands, maybe still a little black, but we're good. And I have my scissors. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut out both of our bears. So we can save half of this piece of paper to use next week when we work more on the background of our polar bear picture, our polar bear habitat. So you can cut that part off and save that. And then to do the baby, what we're going to do is we're just going to start on this edge here. And just to review cutting, our scissors are always pointing forward, and I'm using my opposite hand to what I cut with to turn the paper. But my scissors aren't moving. The scissors are still just staying in that same position. And I'm being careful not to cut off the bear's ears. And then I work my way down. And there we go. Now there's one more part I need to cut, and that's this little part in here. And so I'm going to have to give the paper a nice big turn there. And that's a little bit tricky, but it's okay. I think you can do it. And there's the baby. Okay. Then what we're going to do is for either the mommy or daddy polar bear, we're going to start on this, do the same exact thing. We're going to start on the edge. Work our way around. So we're getting some nice practice on how to cut curves. And we're also getting nice practice on how to draw a curved line. And there we go. And then the last part is this little inside part. So I'm going to take my scissors, curve around, and there we have it. Okay, so I have mommy and baby, or daddy and baby. I'm going to save this square, and then what you're going to do with your scraps is you're going to go throw away your scraps, and then we'll do the next step. Alright guys, now I want to show you a finished background for this the polar bear project, but we're not going to do a lot of work on it today. We're just going to we're just going to start the early parts of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to think about creating these icebergs that the polar bears kind of live on and travel around on. And I have a PowerPoint with some pictures of some bears in the Arctic that you can watch that will kind of give you an idea of what their habitat looks like, because I don't know about you guys, but I've never taken a trip up to the North Pole and up into that Arctic area. A lot of times now, because of global warming, the ice chunks are melting, so there's a lot more chunks of ice that are floating around that are breaking off. So how are we going to create those chunks of ice? Well, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to move this off to the side, and for our last part of today's project, what you're going to do is, if you saved your extra piece, we're going to do that. We're going to work with that, and then we're also going to work with our other piece of white paper today. And what I want you to do is I want you to take your pencil, and I want you to find the middle kind of the piece of paper. And before you draw it, what I want you to do is just kind of take your finger and think about making some kind of jaggy lines that go up and down. Because when ice breaks, the edges are oftentimes kind of jagged. And a lot of times the ice that the polar bears float on is jagged. So once you kind of practice that a little bit, sort of practice going up and down, then you can grab your pencil, and you're going to just start kind of here in the middle, and you can kind of go up and maybe a little higher, a little lower, and there we have it. Okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing over on this little piece, where I'm going to kind of find the middle and kind of make some jagged lines. All right? Now, after you do that, we're going to talk about how we are going to rip the piece of paper. All right, so we're going to focus on, for ripping paper, we're going to focus on our pointer finger and our thumb. All right, and we can try it first with this little piece of paper. If it doesn't go well, don't panic. You can ask me for more strips of paper. Just send me a note in Canvas. It's not a big deal, but it's really, this isn't really something that you have to worry about doing very precisely, okay? So if you've ever practiced ripping a piece of paper, what you're gonna do is you're going to put one set of pincher fingers on one side of the line that you drew, and then you're gonna put the other set of pincher fingers on the other side of the line you drew. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna pull forward with your right hand, and you're gonna pull backward with your left. So this one's going the two friends are going separate ways. The paper's ripping. Now I got to the top of this line. So if I continued I would rip this piece off, but I don't want to. I want to keep going so that it's one big piece. So now I've moved my pointer and my thumb down here to where this line is. And I've moved these fingers to the other side. So now I'm pulling and going down that way. And then, oops, now I've reached down there. So now I'm gonna line up my fingers again and pull my paper. And then I'm lining up my fingers. Lining up my fingers. And there we go. Now it's not going to be exactly on the lines that you drew, but the cool thing is if you turn this over where you don't see your pencil lines, this looks kind of like some jaggy pieces of ice. Now if you want to make them a little bit smaller, what you could do is you could decide, well, maybe I just kind of want to rip a piece off like that. So now maybe I have a chunk like that. Or maybe I want to rip off the straight part of that and make it even a little bit jaggier. So I have that. Okay, and then I can throw these little pieces away. Maybe I want to rip this up like this as another piece, and then maybe this is going to be another piece like that. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of ripping. If you try it with the little piece, that kind of gives you an idea, and then once you do that, we can try it with our bigger piece. So again, we're going to take our pointer fingers. One is on this side of the line, and one set of pointer and thumb is on this side. Okay, I'm going to go forward with the right hand and backward with the left hand, and I've made a rip. Then I'm going to bring the fingers down and make a rip, and then bring the fingers down, make a rip. Reline up the fingers, bring them back down here, do some ripping. This is a really good exercise to give you some strength in your fingers. But notice how I'm just kind of, my fingers are following along that line until I get to the end. So now I have two big long strips. We're going to save one of the strips that we like and keep it whole. Okay, so if I like this strip, I'm going to put it up here with the other pieces that I just made with the little piece. And then here's my second strip. Okay, and we're going to do that same thing where we're going to divide this second long strip into maybe 4 separate chunks of floating ice. So again, you can kind of decide where you want to rip. So there's one. This one looks kind of cool. There's 2, and then 3, 4. Okay. If you had a piece that was really wide, you could even, if you wanted to, rip the piece in half. Okay. So there we have it. Now I have all these little pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather them up, just like that. And then I'm going to take my paper clip and my other papers. So Mrs. Herbay has her turquoise paper, the blue and the purple paper, and the white paper. And then I have my 2 polar bears. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paper clip those together. And then we will be ready for the final step next week. So awesome job. I can't wait to see, check in with you this week on Tuesday, and which is actually coming up very soon. And I hope you guys have a great week.